The next definition we have is called applied stop, and that definition is a separate surface mounted channel typically used on a cased opening section creates a rabbited frame profile. Sure. So it's a separate surface applied channel typically used on a cased opening frame and allows you to have a rabbited type of frame profile. Depending on where you place the applied stop, it could turn a cased opening frame into a single rabbet frame. It could turn it into a double rabbet frame. Let's take a look at a couple of sample pieces that we have. Again, courtesy of Gulfport Industries, I have just a piece of cased material. This is very likely a spat, would be my guess, but nonetheless will serve as illustration. This is a piece of stainless material. It is, you can think of this just as a cased opening frame where there is no stop whatsoever. This is their, again, courtesy of Gulfport Industries, FR320E. In their catalog, they call this glazing bead. Absolutely, it can be glazing bead. It's a stop. Glazing bead is a stop that holds in glass generally. This is of sufficient size where you could certainly consider this applied stop. And it basically is a stop that is applied to the frame. You might need to create yourself some sort of a situation where you're going to add, you know, a light to a cased opening frame. And depending on where you position one or two pieces of this material, you're going to create a single rabbet frame or a double rabbet frame. So here's a single rabbet frame if I'm applying the stop right out to the edge of the material. If I place it here at some relationship to the center, I now have a double rabbet frame. This area would be the rabbet of the frame. So an applied stop is literally used in instances where you need to add the functionality of a feature to the frame such that the door will stop against, or a feature of a frame that a piece of glass can be held in place. So the difference between applied stop and glazing bead, however, while glazing bead can be used as applied stop, if you're installing a window, if you're glazing glass into a frame, you're usually going to push that back against the stop. Well, then out here, you've got to have glazing bead. So you'll have an applied stop, because that's what it really is, and then glazing bead. You could, if you had a cased frame, you could use two pieces of glazing bead to hold that glass in. But you could also have an application where, in a wood door application, you could have a cased opening frame, but you're going to apply a piece of wood to the latch side jamb so that when the door closes, it closes against that piece of wood, that applied stop. Why would you need an applied stop on one side and not the other? Well, it could simply be a center hung application where you can't have an applied stop on the pivot style. And the way that the installation is such that you have a wall, you've got a cased opening frame, and that door is going to be placed right out flush with the face of the wall. Okay, that door is going to swing in. You're going to have bull-nosed, the pull side pivot style of that sort of application. But when the door comes to the closed position, forgive me, let's make the door swing out in this instance. When the door swings out, when the door comes and closes, you're going to want it to close against the face of the stop. And that's really what it's used for. In that sort of scenario, you would still need to radius the edge of the door for a center hung pivot unless you constructed the jamb in such a way where you didn't need to do that. Or you used a piece of hardware like Hager's pivot set, their rack and pinion pivot set, their emergency pivot. Hager has their rack and pinion pivot set. That's basically a pivot. They're center hung. Are they exclusively center hung? Yeah, they all appear to be center hung. So that when the door pivots, it actually moves closer in the opening like this. It's really neat. It's a way that you can have a center hung installation without radiusing or bullnosing the edge of the door. But when that door comes closed, you're still going to want the door to not hyperextend to the inside, and that's the key of the applied stop. You're not allowing that door to go beyond the application. Now you'll have hardware that will do the job as well, like a roller latch that has an integrated angle stop. You're applying that hardware. It incorporates a stop. You kind of, in a sense, have an applied stop. But an applied stop is usually a piece of metal, not unlike this. I would generally say an applied stop might be wider than this. The projection could be 1/2 inch. This is 5/8 by 1, so 5/8 by 1. This could very easily be an applied stop. If you have a stop, backing up, the projection of a stop on a hollow metal frame is 5/8. So if you were installing glass in an unusual location within the frame, the projection of that stop would match most likely every other projection of the hollow metal frames that you have on the job in terms of stop projection. So it's just simply stated, when you need a door to not go beyond where it ought to go is the bottom line. So let's move on to the next definition. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.